Back at home, feeling misunderstood. In between these ears, ain't nothing good.
The hinges too. Now, let's move on to our new segment. You basically come up with all of the segments that we do on this show. But this one, fact or cap, presented by fanatics.com, which you can go get some caps on fanatics.com, link in our bio at FEOTB pod. Why don't you explain what this segment is going to be, and then I'll kind of tee you up for the story of what our first conspiracy is going to be. What is fact or cap?
So fact or cap is where Jimmy and I, one of us each different week meets. For this week, it's I brought the first one to the table. We look up different sports conspiracies. It could be basketball, football, hockey, baseball, MMA, tennis, golf, whatever. It doesn't matter. And we bring it to the table and we're like, we discuss it. Do you think it could be true? Do you think it could, then at the end, we decide, is there a chance this could be a fact, or is it cap, no shot at all? And then that's where the fact or cap comes in. So we'll have conspiracies each different week. Mine's the first week. It's a lot of fun. Like we said, we're getting the off-season mode, and we can only talk so much about baseball. So we got to throw in lots of different stories, lots of different fun things in here. So fact or cap's a new segment.
Yeah, and we're going to be putting this one. I think this should be a staple on our YouTube channel as well, because we have that. We might as well continue to pump content out through there. That being said, for our first fact or cap, if you're go ahead.
One of the probably the biggest sports conspiracies out there right now.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, if you're a diehard NBA fan, you've known about this for a while. I think a lot of people that are probably listening to this might be like me, where they kind of heard about this story firsthand through the Last Dance documentary that came out last year when we were all jonesing for sports content, and they said, "Here's Michael Jordan, have fun." We just devoured that shit. In 1993, Michael Jordan retired pretty suddenly after completing his first three-peat. Seemingly like it was his own decision, and he was just going to go on and try and play professional baseball. Like I said, we've seen Space Jam, we've seen The Last Dance. That's what we kind of know. But you think that there might be more to this story that people might not know, because Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan is the holy grail of sports. When you talk about the biggest athletes of all time in sports, you think of Michael Jordan, you think of Babe Ruth, you think of Muhammad Ali, and I mean, you could probably throw Tom Brady into that conversation when you talk about football people. Tom Brady could probably be in the conversation, but those are the people you think about. And there were rumors and there were things that came out. Obviously, Jordan had a very, very, very vindictive or personality where he bet on everything. Golf, he bet on fucking throwing nickels against the wall against his guards. He bet on or cards. He bet on so many different things. And the rumors and some of the main conspiracy is Michael Jordan was forced to retire because the NBA needed to suspend him. Here we go. So this is where it gets interesting. So Jordan, after that 93 season, he got caught with all gambling stuff. He got caught saying he had all these debts and these associations that he did not pay. And the NBA had obviously this was when the Pete Rose stuff was coming out too. And this was around all that time. And the sports gambling thing was at a point where the NBA needed to almost remove Michael Jordan from the field. But they told him they basically, it'd be very, very difficult to suspend Michael Jordan for 2 years and tell him not to play basketball. So they went to Michael Jordan and said, we cannot suspend you, but what you need to do is you need to retire and do some other stuff on the side. And then you can come back, whatever. But it must be 2-year hiatus, must miss two complete seasons. Basically, when the second season ended, Michael Jordan was like, I'm back. And there was rumors and things because, I mean, obviously the situation with his dad and possibly how he was killed was possibly because of his gambling. And Michael Jordan's gambling was very, very bad. So the conspiracy is that Michael Jordan was never the first retirement was because he was initially suspended by the NBA. So he had to retire. So the NBA didn't have the cloud that they suspended the GOAT of their sport. you're mute there, but
the first argument that I'm actually like I'm kind of on the side of this conspiracy theory. My first argument would be going back to what we said about the NBA and the comparison that we've had with the NBA and the NFL. The NBA drives their revenue based on the stars that they have on the court. The NFL drives their revenue based on the laundry that the teams wear on the field. That's how it is. You care way more about your NFL team than you actually care about guys playing in the NBA. That's why I kind of go with the NFL can suspend Tom Brady for the Deflategate thing because, they're making a point that the NFL is bigger than all. Michael Jordan was so much bigger than basketball. The NBA just didn't have the power to do. Like, there's no way. Who was the commissioner? It was their old commissioner.
It was David Stern at the time.
Yeah, David Stern. There was no way, especially with the relationship that David Stern had with MJ and giving him all the MVP trophies and everything like that. David Stern was not going to stand in front of everybody and go, we had to suspend the greatest player in our sport because he's a degenerate gambler, possibly got his dad killed and possibly has some debts that hasn't paid off. And we need to make sure that he's not on the court because we just saw MLB ban Pete Rose for life. And we can't do that with Michael Jordan. It would be a PR nightmare. There's no coming back from that.
Imagine that in this era with social media and everything. If LeBron was caught in that situation and the NBA had to for life him or 2 years or whatever, it would be fucking headline news everywhere. And Jordan was not only basketball, he was the face of sports. Everybody in the world knew who Michael Jordan was. Everybody revered him because his greatness and the Air Jordan and the shoes and everything else. And what makes it so interesting was the fact that he went and played baseball. The fact he went and played baseball made me think that this conspiracy may be less true because his dad did want him to play baseball originally. And that was his first technically love. That's what made me question a little bit. But at the same time, I'm thinking, why? Like at the time, it was Bo Jackson and I think Deion Sanders were the only two that did the dual sports. And to go over and play baseball, it was ability to do both, because basketball ends around. I know this year is a weird year, but usually ends around the end of May, beginning of June, and that would be after the first month of baseball. So there was a possibility you could have done both. At that time, it wouldn't have been that weird, and come back and finish the baseball season before the NBA started. And that's why I'm like, I think this could be closer to truth. We just gotta tread water though, because Jordan is like, you want to talk about Michael Jordan, you gotta be careful, because that is the holy grail. That is the glass ball. Like, you gotta be careful. That's why I'm so weary talking about this, because you don't want to talk bad about the logo, the man, the myth, the legend that is number 23. Because there are a few people on this earth that have the presence that Michael Jordan has whenever he steps in a room. Like, it is just different. And I'm going to go along the side that, to me, I'm going to say it's cap, because I think the NBA, I think there was a reasoning behind Jordan doing the Space Jam stuff, doing baseball. I think there was he wanted to do that. I think he wanted to do that. And I think there was a point where he was pissed off with Phil Jackson and Scottie Pippen at the time. And through all that, I think there was some beef between him and obviously Jerry Krause. Last Dance, I think he wanted to almost stand him up too. So I'm going to go on the side that it's cap. That's not true because of his long-standing relationship with Jerry Krause and how much he despised that man and blah, 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 and that he wanted to do other things. And then when he realized that there was still a chance for him to be in his prime, he decided, I'm just going to come back. So I'm gonna go on side of cap.
Man, I'm not normally in on the conspiracy theories, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll side with this one as fact, because you say that there might have been some other reasonings as to what I feel like the other reasonings as to why the situation happened were almost too perfect. Like, he went and started playing baseball because he just finished a three-peat and he was over playing basketball. But then They gave him the movie Space Jam to worry about during this time. They let him play baseball. Like, yes, it was only in the minors, but they let him play baseball while he couldn't play basketball. I will say that I don't think Michael Jordan put himself in this situation purposely. I don't think that he woke up and was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get in a bunch of gambling debt, make sure the NBA has to suspend me for 2 years. I'm going to go play baseball in Space Jam. And you know what, there's going to be an incident that happens with my father, and he's going to be murdered on the side of the highway. This is what I'm setting out to do intentionally. I don't think that's what happened. I just think, people with addictions, they don't have the ability to know when to stop. And it seems like it's far-fetched, but it really gets to a point where all of this stuff could snowball in just the right way. And holy crap, Michael Jordan has to retire in 1993 after he just won back-to-back championships.
Yeah.
And the fact that he came back and won another three-peat. So like he proved, I could have done this. I could have won 8 in a row if I wanted to, but I just, I had those 2 seasons where I couldn't play.
I mean, it's a wild one. It definitely, I would say it's one of the wildest sports conspiracies out there, because the NBA has been known to do things behind closed doors, whether it be, I mean, we'll talk about more. There's a lot of NBA conspiracies that are fun to talk about that we'll continue to go on and have. But there's this one is just so interesting because it's one of the GOATs of this sport, and probably one of the GOATs of all sports. And the way he abruptly retired and then came back, it was just weird. It's just weird. That's all. We would never see that. I mean, we saw it kind of with Brett Favre, but that was a completely different story where he retired, unretired. That was a completely different story. But it's just weird because that area with Pete Rose and that betting scandal and all that, it's just a weird timing.
Yeah, and imagine if they had that, if they did suspend Jordan for gambling, and then they had the thing with the referee come, like it would have been like 10 to 15, 5 years later.
Yeah, because it was it came out 10 years later, but the report with the Tim Donaghy was in like 2001 to 2003.
That would have been like, NBA would be in shambles if that happened. So David Stern did the right thing in letting Michael Jordan retire to serve a suspension, if that is what happened. Let us know at FEOTV Pod. Let us know if you think this one is fact or cap. Did MJ retire because he just wanted to go try play baseball and shoot the movie? Or did the NBA make him serve a suspension in retirement, quote unquote? That's our first fact or cap segment, presented by Fanatics.com. Remember, link is in our bio, also at FEOTB Pod. And now we get to talk about